say some of your feet were tapping, so I was just watching how fast I was supposed to go. So thank you for that. You know, with the hour time change, which screwed up a lot of us, it screwed up me in my dream sequence. So last night I had a lot of terrible dreams, and one was about this concert. And there was only one person who showed up. It was my mom. She got up after this first piece and she said, "Phoenix is much better." And she left. So we're glad you're here. Our next few pieces, we're going to do some dances. We're going to start with some Dvorak Slavic dances. If you happen to know the Slavic dance, you are welcome to do it in the back of the room. So I know a lot of you in this crowd, but I want you to get to know Phoenix a little bit. Phoenix and I taught at rival universities in Indiana. But I did find a story about her, so I'd like to share this with you. And part of this is because we're ending with Carnival of the Animals, so my stories will be about animals today. A man was blissfully driving along when he saw the Easter Bunny hopping across the middle of the road. He swerved to avoid hitting the bunny, but unfortunately the rabbit jumped in front of his car and was hit. The basket of eggs went flying all over the place. The driver, being a sensitive man, as well as an animal lover, pulled over to the side of the road, got out to see what had become of the bunny carrying the basket. Much to his dismay, the bunny was dead. The driver felt guilty and began to cry. Phoenix, driving down the same road, saw the man crying and pulled over. She stepped out of her car and asked the man what was wrong. I feel terrible, he explained. I accidentally killed the Easter Bunny. There may not be an Easter because of what I did. What should I do? Phoenix told the man not to worry. She knew exactly what to do. She went to her car trunk and pulled out a spray can. She walked over to the limp, dead bunny and sprayed the entire contents of the can onto the little furry creature. Miraculously, the Easter Bunny came back to life, jumped up, picked up the spilled eggs and candy, waved its paw at the man in Phoenix, and hopped down the road. 50 yards away, the Easter Bunny stopped, turned around, waved, and hopped down the road. Another 50 yards, he waved, hopped down the road. Another 50 yards, he waved again. The man was astonished. He said to Phoenix, "What was it you sprayed on the Easter Bunny?" Phoenix turned the can around so the man could read the label. It said, "Hairspray." Restores life to dead hair. Adds permanent weight. So Phoenix cares. So now we move to Brahms. We have some Brahms Hungarian dances. Again, if you know the dance, you are welcome to do it in the sanctuary. cat dies and goes to heaven. God meets him at the gate and says, "You have been a good cat all of these years. Anything you desire is yours. All you have to do is ask." The cat says, "Well, I've lived all my life on a farm, and I had to sleep on hardwood floors." God says, "Say no more." Instantly, fluffy pillows appear. A few days later, 6 mice are killed in a tragic accident, and they go to heaven. God meets them at the gate with the same offer he made to the cat. The mice said, "All our lives we had to run. Cats, dogs, even people with brooms have chased us. If we could have a pair of roller skates, we wouldn't have to run anymore." God says, "Say no more." Instantly, each mouse is fitted with a beautiful pair of tiny roller skates. After a week, God decides to check and see how the cat is doing. The cat is sound asleep on his new pillow. God gently wakes him and asks, "How are you doing? Are you happy here?" The cat yawns and stretches and says, "Oh, I've never been happier in my life. And those meals on wheels you've been sending are the best." So now we're going to do 3 dances that you probably know at Christmas time from the Nutcracker. Is anyone from Florida State? Uh-oh. I was told of a zoology professor from Florida State who is so tough that nobody has ever received an A in his course. Last semester, history was being made because an especially bright student had A's on his first 2 tests. If he could get an A on his final, he would have the first A in his professor's class ever. The final test was on birds. So the student practically memorized the 3 chapters on birds. He felt ready for anything that might appear on the final. The day of the final, the professor said, "Good morning, students. This is your final exam." From underneath the table, he pulled out 3 stuffed birds. Each was covered with a piece of cloth, and all you could see were the legs and feet poking out below the covering. Looking at the legs and feet of these specimens, the professor said, "I'd like you to tell me the common name and their scientific name. That's all you have to do. You have an hour and a half." The class was completely and absolutely stunned. There are thousands of types of birds. How do you identify a bird? By looking at its legs and feet. The task was given so nobody could get an A. The student who thought he had a shot at getting an A wrote down some names he probably knew were incorrect. He slammed his test on the professor's desk and said, "Sir, that's the dumbest test I've ever taken in my life. And I want to tell you something else. You are the most boring lecturer on campus." The professor fumbled for a pen and said, "Just 1 minute. What is your name?" The student thought for a second, pulled up his pants, showed him his leg, and said, "Why don't you tell me?" Florida State. So next we're going to play some Bach. And you know, Bach sometimes gets a bad rap. I mean, we have to learn it when we're studying. We have inventions we have to do, preludes and fugues. But we had a friend of ours write some second piano parts to, we're going to play a prelude first, which is beautiful. The second one is an invention, and that's our jazz piece.
That. This okay?
piece of Carnival of the Animals, but I have to tell you a few things. First of all, there are free will offering baskets by the doors. The good news, the elephants work for peanuts. And join us for cake after the carnival, and we can watch them getting ready for the reception scene. And I hope you stay and you eat some cake, drink some punch, and meet Phoenix, who my mom likes better than me. So Carnival of the Animals, can you imagine inviting a guest like Sassons to your house? And he goes, I'm going to give you a gift. I'm going to write you a piece for Mardi Gras. So he wrote this piece for a dinner party. And it's incredible. But Sassons thought it wasn't serious enough, so he didn't want it published until after his death. So they published it after 1921. Columbia Records wanted to do a recording, but they thought, we need to have some poems written about the animals. So they had Ogden Nash write poetry. So I'm going to say the poems between each animal. But I have to tell you, I just want you to know how creative Sassons is. So you'll hear in the lion, you'll hear the roar in the pianos back and forth between the two pianos. You hear the conversation going. The turtle, a lot of you know Jacques Offenbach. Well, you don't know him, but you know his can-can. Can you all do the can-can? But what he does is he uses that for the turtle. But it goes, so you'll hear that. I mean, he was a jokester. In fossils, you'll hear kind of tunes that went out of style in France, like you'll hear Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So he puts these little clips in, and then one animal he uses, pianists. I don't know if they're really an animal, but we probably look like animals up here. So I hope you enjoy Carnival of the Animals. like profound despair, I bet on what to beat a hare. I also know I'm now a pauper because of its tersely, torpor. He has to jump because he's edible. I could not eat a kangaroo, but many fine Australians do. Those with cookbooks as well as boomerangs enjoy him in tasty kangaroo meringue. some are whales. People like dimples, fish like scales. Some fish are slim and some are round. They don't get cold, they don't get drowned. But every fishwife fears for her fish. What we call mermaids, they call merfish. In the world of mules, there are no rules. Cuckoos lead bohemian lives. They fail as husbands and as wives. Therefore, they cynically disparage everybody else's marriage. before somebody invented the radio. Some claim that pianists are human and quote the case of Mr. Truman. Sassons, upon the other hand, considered them a scurvy man. Ape-like they are, he said. And simian instead of normal men and women. At midnight in the museum hall, the fossils gathered for a ball. There were no drums or saxophones, but just the clatter of their bones. A rolling, rattling, carefree circus of mammoth polkas and mazurkas. Pterodactyls and brontosauruses sang ghostly, prehistoric choruses. Amid the mastodonic wassail, I caught the eye of one small fossil. Cheer up, sad world, he said, and wait. It's kind of fun to be extinct. over and over and claims to have never heard of pavlova. Now we reach the grand finale. On the